friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a video I have been teasing now probably for weeks and weeks with you. This is going to be a New Year's declutter. Yeah, we are already into February, but it is still the new year, and the last one that I did was in 2020. But as I've been going through my collection in this new year, I have been pulling things aside. I've been letting you know in my eyeshadow palette collection video, there were some things in there I was not loving, and if you missed that video, I'll go ahead and link it above for you. There's also been some skincare pieces, not a ton, but a few that just are not sparking joy for me. They're kind of irritating my skin, giving me some of these crazy breakouts. There's also some highlighters, lippies. There's just an assortment of things in this declutter, and I actually thought about kind of holding off and adding more to a declutter, but that means I'm storing at least a good sized portion of makeup in my tiny beauty space that I'm not loving, and it's kind of getting in the way, especially living so small. So I thought, why not maybe do even more declutters with you this year, so that way they're not going to be like super duper long, but I can give you more information as to why maybe something isn't jiving for me personally. Now, if anything I'm decluttering in here happens to be a favorite for you, because a lot of these items are also BoxyCharm items. I just said BoxyCharm. I know. Oh, take a sip. A lot of you know I love my BoxyCharm items. I really think so many great things come from Boxy, but with the good comes the bad, and there are just some things in here that I was really excited for that didn't work for me. Some of them kind of sucked. Some of them were just not jiving with me personally and the way I like to do makeup. So grab a tea, grab a water, grab a snack, get comfy. We're going to be going through this declutter. Oh, these kind of hurt, but bear with me. It's going to be cathartic and cleansing. Cheers! I actually have a pretty good size bag here, and some of these are going to hurt because they're brands I love and you love, but if they're not working for me, if I'm not using them, I may as well make room in this tiny beauty space for all of the good things coming. I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes in here, a face palette. Actually, I'm going to start with something that I thought I already decluttered, so that way it's just kind of like getting the ball rolling and it hurts a little less, and then we'll get into the hard stuff. I believe this is something I either got from an Ipsy or a BoxyCharm, I'm not sure which, but it's from a brand Studio Makeup, so I'm leaning into BoxyCharm for this one. This is a very, very neutral liquid eyeshadow. Now, a lot of my babes in the audience know liquid eyeshadows and I are, how do I put this? We like each other, we talk to each other, but we don't regularly date. You know what I mean? It's like it's got to be a special event or a moment for me to want to reach for them, because I'm an eyeshadow palette lover. It is just where my heart lies a lot. But the Stila glitter and glow glitter shimmer toppers have become like, they're not even toppers, they're eyeshadows because they're so good. That is like the one caveat I have in my tiny beauty space, because they're so lovely and so beautiful on the lids, and they last forever and they don't budge in my crease. And this one in my hand budges, it leaves creases, and it's also just practically transparent on me. This is the Studio Makeup Endurance Cream Eyeshadow. This one is in such a nude shade. It says it's in the shade Gold, but honestly, it comes off nude. I put it here on my hand, so hopefully you can see it, and it is definitely pulling up transparent. It also pulls its own product away as you layer, so you kind of have to let it dry a little bit, maybe get a little tacky, and then put more back on, but honestly, it doesn't work for my skin tone. It is practically a translucent, shimmery-ish, not even full shimmer topper for me. You can keep building and building, but honestly, for me, it's not worth it, and it's so similar to some of the other Stila ones that I personally invested in as far as what it wants to be. Like, if you build it up, it could be, oh shoot, I'll just show you. It looks like it's trying to be a combination of the two I do have in my collection from Stila. I have the Wanderlust and Smoldering Satin. I feel like it's just kind of a wannabe. It's so translucent, but if you are a girl that doesn't want a lot of vavoom on her eyes, you just want that light frosting, maybe that's your jam. Also, if you have a darker skin tone than me, or lighter actually, it would probably work way better. This one here is the Smoldering Satin. I'm gonna put over here. Whew! I mean, that's just, it's there. You see it, it's gorgeous. And then the other one that I have, Wanderlust, I'm gonna put on the other side. I think this is the one it wants to be, or at least if I build it up, I could maybe make it that. But oh, you definitely see the differences though, right? I definitely do, and I would gravitate much more to these outside colors than I do the center one. As I said, it pulls itself away. It makes it so patchy. It requires a lot of fuss and a lot of muss, and I don't have a lot of patience for that. So I'm going to stick with my Stilas, and I'm definitely decluttering the Studio Makeup. It looks like, as I'm like investigating it, the glitter sparkles in the Studio Makeup are trying really hard to perform like these two, and that's the only thing that I think is even close to it. As far as like the coverage goes, it just is way too patchy, and this is like 2-3 layers. Next for me is an eyeshadow palette I really thought I might love or could at least warm up to, even though it's a cool toned palette. And I have been reaching into a lot more cool tones these past few years. But this particular eyeshadow palette just is not for me. I wish it was. For some reason, Butter London and I just, maybe it's a brand that just doesn't jive with my skin, or maybe just the way I like to do makeup. This is the Teddy Boy eyeshadow palette from Butter London. And upon looking at it, you may think, well, is it because of that mirror's annoying? There's just some text over here. Could that be the issue? Really? No. I was willing to overlook the palette in itself as far as this trifold. The layout is kind of obnoxious and you don't get a lot of shades, but I was willing to overlook all of that. As some of you know, I have tiny palettes in my collection that I love. Really, for me, it's this formula. I find it to be pretty thin, patchy. It doesn't lay or last on the eyes well at all. The only shade that I think I actually enjoyed a lot was Archie, and this was just a very shimmery shadow. But as you can even kind of see here, it definitely is thinner. So as you spread and like apply it, it can even get thinner and thinner. And if you're adding other shades around it, it just doesn't perform well. I'll dip into Simon and Graham, the other more neutral shades on it. They swatch pretty decent, but as far as lastability goes, it's not so great. I really wanted to enjoy this cool toned palette, but for my eye shape and maybe just the way I like to do makeup, I find that it fades really quickly and it doesn't last. It also, with a brush, tends to skip a little bit on my eyes. It could be my eye shape. It's just not my favorite, unfortunately, so I'm gonna have to let this one go. Pretty sad about that because I keep looking for a Butter London palette that I might like, but this one, not so much. Usually in these types of videos, people always kind of want to know, what are you doing with your decluttered makeup? Well, if anything is expired, and I don't think anything's expired in this bunch, obviously I would throw that away. It's been harder, I have found, with the pandemic to donate makeup, especially any kind of used or even lightly used makeup. So I actually have some girlfriends that I tend to share this with, sometimes some family members, stuff like that. Especially if it's still quality. That's what makes me feel less guilty about decluttering, because I do have a tiny beauty space and I need to keep this space curated in order to put out fresh content for you, to be able to bring in things that I'm excited about. Because if I'm not reaching for something, there is no sense in hoarding it and storing it when it's not getting any love from me anyway. Okay, this one might hurt a little bit, so maybe if I just do it now, I can rip off the Band-Aid and then I can move forward. Pure. Some of us have a love-hate relationship with Pure Cosmetics, especially when it comes to their eyeshadow formulas. I have had some eyeshadow palettes I have loved from Pure. These are ones that I just pulled out that I'm just referencing to remind myself I do like some of these a lot. But a continuation of something we got in a previous year I was really excited for, and that's the Pure Festival 2.0 palette. I feel like the packaging was very much overlooked, especially kind of keeping with the theme of festival, first and foremost. It's not a reason I would declutter it by any means, but it does help me to understand maybe where Pure was at when they were putting this palette together. This was the Festival 1 palette, and what I liked about this guy not only was the fun packaging that was really exciting to get in the springtime, but yes, it is a neutral lover's dream with a few pops of color and some glitters that I did jump into and enjoy. And I have found that these were really pigmented, they spread well. I know not everybody loves the Pure formula, so again, different strokes, different folks, you do you. This one is something that I found I could use either alone or with other palettes, and I enjoyed it. And then when I was getting its kid sister, the 2.0, I was like, great! let's play. Maybe they'll work well together. It is considered a 12-piece pressed pigment palette. Specifically, they do have that on there. It's a pressed pigment. And these are also very neutral, and I think for some people probably even more approachable than the #1 palette because of the glitters, and the pink and the purple in the other palette are much more dramatic and probably more vibrant, whereas these probably seem a bit more, approachable to an average consumer. The blues in there are nice, well, at least nice in the pan for me. Anytime I've reached for this palette, I have found certain shades, like I specifically talked about Euphoric a few times, it just is really hard to see any color payoff from, and it tends to disappear. And that's honestly how I have felt about some of the other shades as well. They'll swatch well, they may look okay on the finger and on the hand, but when putting them on my eyes, they've just not been my favorite formula. There is a decent amount of fallout too. Ooh. And this shimmers, or the pressed shimmery shades, are chunkier. And unfortunately, these swatches are looking so pretty that I'm like, Nichole, are you sure you want to get rid of this? I mean, look at that blue. But I have a lot of other blues that aren't as chunky, aren't as messy maybe, but also last a bit better. This is probably going to stain because it is a pigment, and we're talking now the pink shades. But for me, this particular palette, this particular formula wasn't my jam. I don't reach for it, unfortunately. I wanted to a lot because I had it so hyped in my head when I received it because I liked the first one so much, and I raved about the first one here on my channel. But as I've said before, if I'm not reaching for something, there's usually a reason why. Oh no, this is gonna stain. I honestly haven't touched these in so long that I kind of feel like, all right, I've had plenty of opportunities to play with it again and to rediscover, you know, what was I not loving, maybe what could I work with. And if I'm not using it, and I have so many eyeshadow palettes in my collection, it is just time to mosey on to something else. I also feel guilty breaking up a set in a way. But again, I feel like this may have been an afterthought with Pure. I could be wrong. I know some of you liked this palette. No judgment. This is just me and my fickle skin too. All right. I have thought about this palette and thought about this palette, and there are qualities to this palette I enjoy. However, there's more overarching things with this palette I don't enjoy. Therefore, I find myself when I'm opening up my drawer in the morning and kind of thumbing through my palettes going, what look do I want to do? What formula do I want to play with? I don't enjoy this palette enough to reach for it compared to some quality things that I do have in my collection that I've purchased from BoxyCharm across the board. You know what I mean? Sadly, I'm going to be decluttering and gifting to a good home with a friend the Ciate London Editor New England palette. Kind of hurts me for this because I know some people really love it, and I think that's why I did give it that old college try and keep going back to it to kind of rediscover things about it that I would enjoy. And honestly, it's a chunky beast that I struggle with. I've got some matte shades in here, but they are far and few between. And what I do find about these mattes is on the finger they do okay, but you really do need to layer them up quite a bit on the eye to stay. Specifically this more nude shade that I like to start an eye look with. That didn't bother me though. I was willing to play along and kind of get a nice eye look. Really for me, it's the metallic-y shimmers. Those are the pieces that are really chunky on me. I love this green shade, and that's why I kept it, because I was able to get some good looks with this green, but I have brought some new greens into my collection. These are really soft. Oh, I'm sitting here going, are you sure you want to put this in a declutter? I always do this to myself. Here's the thing about these shimmers. When it's on my hand and on my finger, it's not too bad. You feel like you can make it work. It's once it gets on my big ol' eyes with my big crease that I have a lot of fallout. Some things on here also just don't last for me. And the shade that I was really keeping this for, the green one, I don't know if I'll be able to kind of translate after I do some editing to it, but that one I have to really, really layer up, but it's really pretty. I just don't find that the Ciate London formula really cooperates with my skin, I think. It just kind of like eats the makeup. And do you know what I mean when I say eats the makeup? Like, you can see it at first and you're like, oh yes, this is the look that I went and spent 20 minutes on. I'm so excited to have this look all day. But then halfway through the day, you're looking at it going, I thought I liked this. What's going on? And then by the end of the day, maybe it's got some creasing in the big old section here of my eyes. Maybe it's faded. Maybe it's looking chunky, depending on the shadow I'm using, especially if I'm getting into the deeper, warmer tones. Even just sitting here swatching my finger into it, I've really been digging in, and there's not a lot of payoff here, and there's a good amount of chunkiness to it. So by the time I'm putting it on the lids and pressing and packing this product to translate onto the lid, it just doesn't do as well. And I'm not reaching for it, so I have plenty of great metallics and shimmers in my collection, and that work better. Like, I'm immediately thinking a great competitor in my tiny beauty space for this palette specifically is the Tarteist Pro Remix palette that I also got from Boxycharm. They are a lot of colors, very similar, that just last longer and are easier to work with for me personally. Kind of hurts. Take a deep breath. Everybody take a sip. Again, if you love this palette, I get it. I do. I wish it worked better for me, but it just doesn't. Oh, okay, I'm kind of cranky about this one, so maybe I should have done this one before that. This palette is the one I chose. This is the palette that when I had a this or that option with Boxycharm, I was like, give me that eyeshadow palette. I am loving all of the nudes. I want to try this new formula. I'm familiar-ish with the brand, but not 1000% as far as it came to eyeshadows. So I was so excited for a nude palette that had a $60 retail, and then... this palette. Let's talk about it. I mentioned this in my eyeshadow palette collection video, where looking at this with the naked eye, you're seeing a lot of different color options and ranges in here, or so you think. Then after you get it out of the pan and onto your eye, it all becomes one tone. Unless you're going to the extremes of one end or the other to the palette, it all looks the same. It all starts to look muddy. None of it really translates. And I thought maybe that would just be a matte shadow situation that they needed to work on with their formula, especially to charge $60. 60. Pretty sure this was 60. And then you get into the shimmers, and the shimmers did the same dang thing. And I was like, what is happening here? The palette itself feels luxurious. It's got this magnetic connection, as you can hear every time it slams closed. It's a little bit heftier than some of the other palettes that are just cardboard. So like you are getting this like luxe vibe just by touching it. And then you try to put it on your eyes with brushes and fingers, and no matter which way I tried to apply this little booger, it was just not happening. I don't know if Swatches will display it the same way it does on eyes, but let a girl try. I'm going into these 3 shades right here on my fingers, and I'm going to swatch them to kind of give you, I'm going to try to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Even just on the fingers with these 3, don't they look the same? I hope it looks the same in editing, but that's, I mean, there's not much variety here as it already is. 2, 3. Okay, where'd that one even go? Because I remember trying to take certain tones when I was using this on the lids with brushes and with fingers, trying to achieve, you know, just kind of like a nice neutral nude shadow look. And don't these two look identical right now? On the lid, all of them looked the same. Up here to 1, 2, 3. These shimmers don't even feel as luxurious as you would think for that price point either, and for like the heft of the weight and all of those things. 2 for sure were looking super similar. And then once you start adding in that warmer one, you think it would pop more, but it really didn't pop as much as it's swatching like you would think it would, which was really, really disappointing. A lot of it just felt like a duplicate once out of the pan, off of the brush and off the finger and onto the eye, especially as you're blending and marrying and you're wanting to see those variances on your lid. A lot of it just started to mush together, unfortunately. Washing off all of those swatches and trying to get the staining off really quickly. But this palette just broke my heart a little bit because, again, this was my choice item. Even if I just said the brand yet, because it's such an interesting name. It's the Ilamuska brand. Is it Ilamuska? Ilamusk. I love a lipstick that I got from them like over a year ago. This is in the shade Cosmic. It's nude. I mean, raise your hand if you're shocked that Nichole likes a nude lip. Of course not. Even putting it on over what I got going today. It's a creamy, dusty rose that layers nicely on top of other things like I just did. So I was opening my eyes more to that brand thanks to Boxycharm and some of the other great stuff I've gotten from them. So this was a big disappointment, unfortunately. Not this. This. Ugh. All right, guys, I'm feeling a little backwards a little bit, and I should explain, I just got a huge monitor to help me better frame all of my videos, so I'm hoping to, again, up the content even more this year for you guys, but it's kind of reversing and it's changing where I'm looking at things, so bear with me as I'm struggle busting my way through some new technical things to give you guys better quality videos. All right, should we go to a face palette right now that... some of you guys loved, some of you really didn't love, some of you didn't get it and you said you were glad you didn't get it. I tried to make this work. I really, really did. This is another piece from Ace Beauté, and I have had some things from them that I've really enjoyed. But I feel like in the past year, the things that I've been getting from Boxycharm, it's just not been a great last few rounds that I've been getting from them. I do think we might be getting some new stuff from them this year though, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but this is something that's hoarding a lot of space in one of my face palette drawers that honestly I'm not using this enough to justify keeping such a big piece when I don't use it and I have other better bronzers. This is the Ace Beauté Bronzed in Paradise palette. Now, if you are a babe that helps other babes with their makeup, having this kind of range is awesome. For me personally, I don't do that, so I kind of was just gravitating more to what's over here and less of what's over here. I tried to go over here with things like contours, but then it was too deep or too warm and it was not looking so great, so I kind of just stuck in this realm over here. These are very creamy, they're very blendable, they're not a bad product, it's just holding up a lot of space for me. Now these are totally matte too, so if you are a babe that also loves a solid matte bronzer, and I know a lot of you do, this could be absolutely your jam. For me, I tend to like a little bit of shimmer and a little different tone to my bronzers and contours, anything that I'm using to warm up the face with, mostly because this seems to have more of a red undertone, at least how it pulls on my skin. I'm trying to figure out what I would even call this tone. I think it just has more of a yellow tone to it, I suppose, as I'm swatching this on my hand here. Okay, you're definitely seeing here. I have a lot of bronzer on my face and on my shoulders, and my hand is very pale. And I was playing around with different foundations, if I'm gonna be honest. But back to what the problem is at hand. I feel like these have a little bit more of a yellow undertone on them, so they don't ever really pull the way I think looks good on my skin. I think this one and this one might be the closest ones I could use, and I have used them. It's not that they don't work, it's not that I can't make them work. It's just not a formula that really I enjoy that much. This one over here screams red tone, so when I tried to use this for a contour, oh good golly, that just did not pull well. So I'd kind of have to lean more to here. It's not a bad palette, it's just not my favorite. And as you can see, there's not a dip in this product. I've had them a while, and the bronzers in my collection are already getting dips because of how often I love them, how much I reach for them, how much I use them to warm up the body, but apparently not the hand. Ha! So it's just kind of time to pass this on to somebody who I think has a deeper either skin tone or a different undertone than me, because this isn't really going with my undertone, so it always distracted me anytime I would try to use it, even with some other stuff that I love in my collection. So, you know, not everything's gonna work for everybody. Speaking of that, I picked this Ofra Highlighter. And you know, those are top ranking in my highlighter collection. So this hurts, but I have tried it over and over. And this particular highlighter I picked, I believe it was an add-on with Ipsy when I was still with Ipsy. So that tells you it's been a while since I got this. And it's practically perfect. It looks practically new because I don't use it. It's also in some of the older packaging as well. This is the Ofra Highlighter in Star Island. And oh, it matches my nails. It looks stunning. Like, look at that blindingness. It's really pretty. But the thing about ordering things online and then once you get them in person, even when you purchase it yourself and it's not just gifted to you, so sometimes, you know, coloration can be a little off and you can use that as a great excuse or truth to what the issue is. I bought this. The reality is anytime I've tried to use it, it's too light for me. Even when I'm not bronzing myself up to the gods, even on my pale skin, it's just way too pale toned for me. I was really excited for it and I thought I could just make it work, but the more you pile on, maybe to try to deepen it, the blingier and lighter it really gets. Although looking at it on my hand right now, you'd be like, girl, that actually could work for you. Maybe that's just what I'm saying to myself so I don't declutter it, because it's still a gorgeous, gorgeous formula. But let's just do it. Let's just do it right here. Yes, your girl has some bronzer on. Don't pick on her. Ooh. I mean, again, blinding highlighters aren't necessarily in style, but you know, I don't really care about that. I like to look like a glazed donut anyway. Go over the top of the highlighter I had on, which I think was the Rodeo Drive highlighter. It just pulls a little too light. And then I don't find myself reaching for it, even in these cooler months. The foundation I'm wearing today is a little bit warmer than me, so that's why I kind of had to bronze things up today. So don't think a girl doesn't know how to wear her pale makeup, because you know I do. You've seen it here before. But this is my Natasha Denona Transform Matte Pore Vanishing Matte Foundation. I love this stuff, and I was mixing it with something else I'm playing with behind the scenes, but that's a different video. Stay tuned, be subscribed, hit the bell. But this, I mean, it doesn't look bad right now in my viewfinder, but like in person, and that's really where I gotta be mindful of it, is in person, it's just too pale for me. I would like it to work because it is pretty, and I did spend my own money on it, but it just unfortunately does not. Oh my gosh, I feel like it's blinding out even my white balance. It's so pale and it's so vibrant. Worst problems to have with a highlighter, for sure. But I'm gonna have to pass this on to someone that's a little bit fairer than me, and I think there's also a tonality issue again here. So now the rest of this video, I'm just gonna have a little blinging going on here. You're welcome. All right, so I've got 2 skincare pieces here, and for me, for some reason, one of these brands is high-end, and I always get excited to try it, and it makes me break out like crazy. I tried this one product, went away from it when I started to notice some skin issues, came back to it, and did it again. So I feel like both of these I think are actually factors for that, and I do have some friends that have been dying for some skincare, so I was like, why not pass on what isn't really working for me, because I have so much in my tiny beauty space from Boxy and Ipsy. Back when I got Ipsy. I have so much skincare that I'm trying to work my way through, and I know more is coming this year. I may as well gift away the stuff that I think is making my skin break out. This is the Farsali Quench Moisturizer. I want Farsali to work for me. I really, really do. But for some reason, it just is not happening no matter what like different product I try from them. This is the Moisture Replenishing Serum. So disappointed that this wasn't working for me. I liked how convenient this was in a dropper. It looks very serum-y. Ooh, and it kind of cakes up. So for being a moisturizer, it's so different than what I was thinking a moisturizer would be, but it's just not working with my skin. It really breaks me out, and it also tends to move my makeup if I'm wearing it underneath makeup. And as a moisturizer, I do like to put that down first and then do the makeup. So I could use this in the evenings, but again, it's making me break out. So I think my skin is just reacting poorly to it. So I'm going to be passing this on to a friend. Another piece that is just breaking my heart, because the Earth Harbor Helios Anti-Pollution Youth Serum, I mean, it sounds so cool. I wish this wasn't breaking me out the way it is. Again, I have sensitive skin, so if any of you don't have very sensitive skin, these both may work gorgeously on you, and if that's the case, I'm jealous. Goodness, it does not jive well with me. It makes me break out. It's thicker, I think, than I was also expecting, and it definitely just drips out. It has a light fragrance to it, but like just those little dips, you can see it's kind of like all over me here a little bit. Unfortunately, it's just not jiving with me, so I'm going to be passing this on to hopefully a babe that doesn't have as much sensitive skin as me, although that did just take off all of the makeup that I had swatched on my hand, so I mean, there's that. This last product I'm going to be telling you about is kind of breaking my heart, if I'm going to be honest. I think I told you guys this was a favorite at one point, and the heartbreaker for me is I don't know if this product just turned or if it's just now separating, changing. This is the Nude Sticks. I was so excited for this. I love when I can get actually a shade I love from Boxy, and you guys know I love a good nude or orangey tone, berryish lip sometimes. This one is in the shade Saint-Tropez. However, I'm pretty sure you guys had told me that it had a sticker on it with a different name, and I pulled off the sticker, so I only know it as Saint-Tropez. Maybe they renamed it, and that's why they put a sticker on it. I don't know. But I liked this, but I was overcoming things from it from the beginning. I was really intrigued by the fact that it's like this wand applicator, so I was like, that's kind of cool. But when you store it, it leaks like a mother. I can't store it like this because it seeps out of this base here. And when I apply it, it's got this like powdery, not wet, but not dry feeling to it. So it kind of has this wanting to be moussey, but wanting to be powdery vibe to it when you're putting it on your mouth. Let's just start to do it, although I don't like how it feels after. So I clearly have stuff on already. Put it on. Maybe it won't do it with something else on. I just tried to put this on the other day several times, layering it up. Oh, I just went out of my lip line. I'm making a mess. And what it tends to do is after it's sitting on your lips and kind of feeling powdery, the formula is transitioning, and it started to separate on my lips every time. And then it started to look like very, like a, not a wash of it, but it started to look like it had peeling almost off of my lips. It was really weird. It calls itself a magnetic lip plush paint, but it's not painting anything. It started to crumble off within minutes. Okay, it's already starting to feel weird. And I already had like 2 products down, so it's actually drying out some of it that was down here. It never feels good on the lips either. It does tend to pull them a bit drier. Also, it didn't have an opaque look to it at all. It started separating, and I don't remember it doing that when I first got this. So I don't know if this just expired in this small amount of time that I've had it, but it's also been very goopy, and it will just start leaking. So I always have to store it like this, and then I forget what color it is. But if I even lay it on its side, it'll start to leak. So I don't know if I just got a bad one, maybe it's getting too much oxidization because of the packaging. Maybe I got something that wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know. But even right now, even though I had other stuff on my lips that wasn't drying me out, just adding this on top of all the stuff on my lips right now is drying me out. I don't like this formula now. I don't like what's happening with my lips. I don't like how it starts to peel off on its own when I'm just wearing this by itself. It's not my favorite. I don't know what happened here, but just this week, I was like, this is going in the declutter. That happened this week. I was like, no, we don't have time to play with that. No. Guys, thank you so much for going through this declutter with me. Like I said, I thought I was gonna like start holding on to more of the declutter items and doing one huge long one, although this was not short, because I went in depth with you guys, showed you some swatches, kind of told you a little bit more behind the scenes and my thought process, not just this is going, this is going, this is going. So you may be seeing some more declutters from me this year in this type of style, where maybe I don't have a whole bunch to go through, but when I do have enough to go through, I'm going to tell you why it's not working for me, because I don't want anybody to come across one of these videos on my channel and think, oh no, that's a bad product, because sometimes it is my skin. Like with these skincare items, these are really good for some of you. I know some of you have told me how much you love this product, and I know a lot of you love Farsali products, but they're just not working for me. I know some people love this. Again, this is more, I think, of an undertone situation, pulling more yellow in the lighter shades that I can reach for. My heart is broken about this. Like, I still think this was just the brand doing us a little dirty, because there's way too much just looking muddy on the eyes with that. And I know so many of you say you love this, which was probably why that was hard for me to tell you, that it's just not working on my skin. It's falling off, it's coming apart, it's breaking apart and creasing everywhere. So sad but true. Thank you guys so much for helping me purge things out of this tiny beauty space so I can take on more things that I love to review for you, to get from Boxy, and just really be able to put out fresh, new content for you with things that spark joy, that make me happy. If you do happen to be new here, hi new friends, I hope you take a quick moment to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on all of these fun, loud, weird, unique videos I do every single week. Bye, friends!